Let's get Yurified.
So why the hell am I making a video about last year's Yuri Ships all of a sudden? Well, it's cause I'm an old man who loves reminiscing about the past, and it's my hardcore drug to remind myself of anything remotely pleasant from the olden days, to make the piling years less painful, even if it was just a goddamn year ago. I don't care, I was younger and less cynical back then, so now that we got that out of the way, let's shine a light on one of the most impressive years for Yuri in recent memories. With many outstanding titles and iconic new characters, I thought it'd be fun to bring back some old faces, with some fresh new takes from yours truly. Another reason I waited to make this video is that a couple of the animes I'll be talking about here continued into 2023, so I wanted to let them wrap everything up before making any judgment. I suppose that's a pretty obvious spoiler on which ships will be listed here, but I highly doubt that should be much of a surprise to anyone, really. Also, the reason it's just a top 5 ships, not like a top 10, is because I really just have these 5 ships that I can talk about extensively. There are other ships from 2022 that I love, but not with burning passions or anything, but I'll include some of them as honorable mentions towards the end. And because this video will be about new 2022 ships, I won't include any animes from 2022 with ships that debuted before that. So unfortunately, this means Shami Momo and Liella and the original Nijikazaki girls will not be included. Oh, and very quickly, even though they first appeared in 22, I won't include Shiki and Mei on this list, just because I already talked a mouthful about these two in my top 10 Love Live video. And if you're curious, I probably put them on my number 2 spot on this list. So yeah, they're quite the heavy hitters. And lastly, pretty obvious to point out, but this video will be chock full of spoilers. Alright, enough chit chat. Let's get the show on the road. Number 5. Aoi and Eve. Birdie Wing. Golf Girls' Story. A major 2022 highlight for me, this anime delivered some of the most standout shonen moments in recent memory. Though season 1 is still the dominant of the two, I cannot understate the high-octane craziness that is Birdie Wing. But I'm gonna do my best as I thoroughly discuss our two leads' wild and wacky relationship. Right off the bat, let's make it absolutely clear that there is no ambiguity between them. From start to finish, Aoi and Eve show immense romantic tension, and the only thing holding them back from committing a laundry list of golfing innuendos together is a PG-13 rating and the writers coming up with a multitude of ways to keep them separated. And with that, we come to one of my first complaints, which is about 60% of the anime is spent with these two totally separated and going off doing their own things. Yes, their actions ultimately involve getting closer to facing off with each other again, but it hardly ever feels like the situations they're in directly involve their sweethearts, if you know what I mean. Like all these obstacles they eventually overcome aren't a result of their bond or learning from their unique and particular skill sets. The only thing I can think of that's contrary to this is the battle between Eve and Rose in season 1, where Eve gets a leg up in the game by pulling out a new technique after training with Aoi in the virtual simulator, which is what makes this game particularly satisfying, aside from the fact that we see a freaking robot arm. But other than that, they don't really get much time learning from each other's experiences and putting that to good use. Honestly, who would object to both girls getting some much needed alone time and learning about their vastly different lives? What would Aoi think about Eve's escapades as an underground golfer? Or what about Eve being shown an entirely different world from Aoi's perspective, a world of luxury and privileges, one that would have been promised to her given Eve's family lineage? Also, another thing to bring up is that they never got to work through their interpersonal drama together in season 2. Like after learning about their family's shocking secrets, they never got the chance to resolve it together or even bond over it. Anyway, not to go off on a tangent here, but I believe this is important stuff to point out given their relationship as rivals. Also, I can't help but feel like this was character development they definitely needed to make them truly great. I mean, aside from a full-blown kiss in the end, but that's a whole other discussion. But anyway, just to make this clear, I absolutely adore the time they do spend with each other, as we get to see their lovable chemistry on full display. Though they're brief, I take immense pleasure seeing Eve, the lesbian heartthrob, tease the innocent Aoi into a state of uncontrollable lust. Lord knows I would be in a much different place if the entire anime centered around their couples bantering from the start of season 2. I would also like to think that Aoi got her destined kiss from Eve immediately after their faithful reunion. I mean, 3 years of blue balling can really make you go crazy, you know. Trust me, I got the scars to prove it. Number 4. Kita and Bocchi. Bocchi the Rock. If you were to tell me about a series about a girl who was a social wreck and a total cringe fest at almost everything was gonna end up being quite the lady killer by the end, I would have said to you, yeah, that's what makes Watamote so great, isn't it? Well, for those who don't know, there's another show I love dearly about a socially awkward girl who ends up attracting the female persuasion, and that girl is Goto Hitori, aka Bocchi. And our biggest fan of female persuasion in question is Kita Ikkyo, aka Kita. I can say with great confidence that the pairing of these two have pleasantly subverted my expectations. We knew that Kita was a big, real fangirl from the start, and that being in her very presence would cause her lady parts to start quivering. But by the end of the anime, little did I know that Kita would end up being an even bigger Bocchi fan, and not just in superficial ways too. Their journey is pure heartwarming excellence, and a testament to the benefits of having a vastly different partner to overcome your shortcomings. What makes these two so impactful to me is how they provide integral character building support to each other throughout the series. Bocchi starts out as a secluded loner, with very little confidence in making her social debut, both as a guitarist and as a respectable member of society. After meeting Nijika, Ryo, and Kita, she slowly but surely started to come out of her shell. But it was Kita who really put the pedal to the metal when it came to inspiring Bocchi. She recognized the raw, godly guitaring talent that Bocchi possessed, but knew they were hindered due to her raw, godly lack of social talent. At every opportunity, Kita encouraged the worrisome wallflower to unleash her inner best girl to the world, sometimes leading to disastrous results. But by golly, her heart was always in the right place. And on the other end, Bocchi admired Kita's boundless enthusiasm and desire to try things outside of her comfort zone. She took it upon herself to train an uncertain Kita in the art of the axe. And despite the difficulties of being a greenhorn, Bocchi watched as Kita put in some extra elbow grease and put on a show of a lifetime. As a side note, I can't help but crack a big smile every time Kita acclimatizes to Bocchi's Bocchiness. Dr. Kita is here to answer all your Bocchi-related questions. Just don't ask about her girlfriend's fetishes. That's for Kita to know. Overall, both girls provide some real proud girlfriend vibes to each other, and just know that makes me as happy as Ro after finding a rich sugar mama. Number 3. Erika and Komichi, Akebi sailor uniform. Before Bocchi the Rock, CloverWorks pulled out another banger of an anime, in Akebi's sailor uniform. I make this no small statement when I say that this series might be the epitome of the Girls Club anime formula, with a phenomenal cast, beautiful setting, gorgeous animation, and of course, Yuri everywhere, so let's all have a sniff. Which brings us neatly to the stars of the show, the supremely talented Kisaki Erika, and the everlasting gobstopper of bubbly energy, Akebi Komichi. Make no mistake, each and every one of Komichi's classmates are filled with personality and are just a joy to watch. However, one girl in particular holds the title for the most fascinating character, and incidentally, that girl also has an extreme fascination for a certain someone too. Right off the bat, we would see these two hit it off in what I would call a divine first meeting. Innocent flirtations aplenty, as we would see Komichi make her very first friend in Erika, and Erika looking like she was just hit by an infatuation beam. And the effects seem to work pretty quick, cause she's all over Komichi in the next episode. Who can blame her really? Almost every girl seems to be taken in by her certain je ne sais quoi charm. They might as well package her scent in a bottle and make a killing as a perfume. La scent de Komichi. Anyway, if you want me to summarize their relationship in a nutshell, look no further than episode 6. They should have just called it the Young Lovers episode, because it's nothing but sweet and innocent flirting between two very close friends. And don't get me started on that beautiful season finale. The show really hammered home who the stars of this anime were, and they're here to tango all night long, baby. Also, as a final note, I just want to express how much joy I receive seeing a girl exhibiting very clear romantic feelings towards another. I know, that's weird for me to say, right? But seriously, I don't want to take this for granted, but watching scenes with female characters who obviously know what feelings lie inside their heart and express them in such pure, heartwarming ways is just straight up concentrated moe pumped into my bloodstream. Out of all the types of Yuri we got to see, in my opinion, nothing beats those straightforward girls just being in love stories. This is why slice of life is my go-to Yuri subgenre. Nothing dramatic or too complicated, just girls blushing, enjoying each other's company, and showing clear signs that they'll one day ultimately complete the game of love. And that's pretty much Erika and Komichi, along with a plethora of other ships that fall into this camp. Hopefully I can discuss that in another video. Number 2. Takina and Chisato, Lycoris Recoil. Oh boy, whether you're a Yuri fan or just a casual anime watcher, there's a very good chance you heard about this little gem. Rarely has an original anime made such a monumental wave as this one, and it's in no small part due to its lead characters, the lovable, larger than life, less than lovers but more than friends, Inoi Takina and Ishikiji Chisato. So where should I begin with them? Let's start with the positives first. One of the best things to come out of the relationship is the drastic changes to Takina's worldview after spending so much time with her partner. As y'all know, when we first meet Takina, she was seemingly a cold, heartless enforcer, willing to do whatever it takes to company. Obviously, after the apparently botched DA mission, she is forced to spend her days hanging out with the bubbly badass Chisato. Following this odd couple situation, Takina eventually gains a better understanding about valuing the life of others, and an even better understanding of the female anatomy on several occasions. This is probably my favorite example of an icy cold, emotionally distant character eventually having their hard-ass exterior melt away. And as usual, it was done by a happy happy-go-lucky, high-on-life character, also known as a Genki in the language of the weeb. The way it was done felt incredibly natural too. We would see Takina eventually stop shooting to kill, she would let out her teenage habits every now and then, and most importantly, she would show genuine emotion whenever her beloved's life was threatened. I'd be lying if I wasn't squealing like a schoolgirl every time Takina went super soldier mode at the very thought of Chisato being hurt. This is what a gay warrior in love looks like, folks. It's no surprise after all, Chisato was the one who gave Takina her new raison d'etre. A life once filled with violence, obedience, and blissful ignorance has now blossomed into total, unfiltered happiness. And let's not forget that Chisato is no slouch in the gratitude department as well. After meeting her sweetie pie, she makes it no secret that the days spent with her are some of the happiest moments in her life. It's also important to point out that this moment in episode 3 is the exact turning point in their relationship. Takina finds new meaning in her life, and Chisato shows that she's more than happy to engage in some good old PDA. Yuri haters be damned. Alright, so now that we got that out of the way, I guess now is a good time to address the elephant in the room, which is the quote-unquote lack of a romantic conclusion. I'm well aware that the relationship between Takina and Chisato have been called Yuri bait by a certain amount of the fanbase, and where I stand on the matter is as follows. I honestly believe with every fiber in my body that the showrunners were completely aware of the romantic implications set up by them surrounding Takina and Chisato. I cannot for the life of me believe with all the implied Takechisa moments, big and small, and an honest-to-goodness canon yaoi relationship, that the showrunners would not intend for Takina and Chisato to be at least romantically interested in each other. Yeah, we didn't get anything conclusive, like a kiss or a confession in the end, and while that would certainly help, it wasn't absolutely necessary in my opinion. Sure, it wasn't the greatest ending, especially when it comes to the plot, but overall the anime maintains the relationship in the highly subtexty camp. In fact, this is probably the best example of Yuri subtext that I can think of, right next to Monica Magica. Re-rebellion, of course. The point is that it was done with taste and moderation, enough where you can easily put the pieces together, and certainly not intended to be a malicious rug pull by the writers. Anyway, I think I rambled long enough about that. Just know that there isn't a shadow of a doubt inside me that these two are destined to be a couple. I'd put good money on that in their next anime appearance. Alright, so as promised, here are my honorable mentions of 2022. Take it away, ladies!
Miorine さん、さっさと返事しなさいよ。
Number 1. Suletta and Miorine. Gundam, the Witch from Mercury. Was there any doubt? I'm not gonna say that this ship was life-changing for me, but I am gonna say that the ship has positively affected every single aspect of my life. There's so much to discuss about these two that I can't possibly do it justice in this video alone, but doggone it, I'm gonna give it the old college try. After our sweet little Miorine uttered those infamous words, I knew that this was the start of something truly special. However, the relationship wasn't all kisses and rainbows. Indeed, it was a roller coaster of emotions and psychological trauma, to the point that I even registered myself as a war veteran. What makes these two such a powerhouse is how much positive influence they have on each other's development. Let's start with Miorine first. When we're first introduced to the petite princess, she was shown to be reclusive, cantankerous, and fairly distrustful of others. Who can blame her? For much of her life, she's essentially been labeled as nothing more than a trophy wife, much to her ongoing objections. Then came her knight in shining robotic armor. Speaking of which, something that always stood out to me is the greenhouse scene where Suletta defended Miorine by standing up to Recoil. What's interesting is that this may be one of the only times in Miorine's life where someone other than her immediate family showed some genuine concern for her. It would make sense considering her sheltered life and being surrounded by nothing but bodyguards and bureaucrats. It's no stretch to say after witnessing this dashing display of chivalry, followed up by Suletta's badass honor-defending victory, that Miorine began to feel a certain, shall we say, connection to her newly titled groom. Just like with Takina, we would see Miorine undergo a similar case of defrosting. And just to quickly summarize it, she would go from a grouchy, self-concerning princess whose only goal was to escape to Earth, to a responsible, caring company CEO whose new goal is to help those disenfranchised by the heavy curse of the Gundam. And it was all thanks to everyone's favorite red-headed Tanuki. Speaking of the Tanuki, she has her fair share of trials to overcome too. Though she was none the wiser about it, Suletta's entire existence has been to serve as her mother's tool for vengeance, and she played it almost to a T. With nearly robotic precision, Suletta diligently followed her mother's wishes, and all it took was a single psychotic episode for Miorine to see that something was indeed rotten in the state of Mercury. So like any good wife-to-be, Miorine took on the heavy burden by separating Suletta from her mother, hoping to curb that unhealthy dependency she has going on. Though it ends up working, Miorine happened to do this in the most painful way possible. And here we come to one of my gripes with this ship. We understand Miorine's motivation for acting as the heel here, and while you can certainly argue about the method itself and the harshness, it no doubt ended up giving Suletta the wake-up call she needed. My problem with it was that after Miorine pulled off that world-class acting stunt, she didn't seem particularly bothered by it. Don't forget, her entire goal for going along with Prospera's plan was to free Suletta by severing her connection to Ariel, rendering her pretty much useless to her mother. After doing that, she still had to uphold her side of the bargain by being the president of space and all that. And during that time, she seemed oddly compliant. I don't know if I missed something here, but seeing as though you just savagely had to pretend to dump the love of your life, and then are forced to go along with a woman who said point blank to you that she was concocting some elaborate revenge scheme using a big Wi-Fi router, maybe you would be a little, I don't know, shaken up. Or at the very least hesitant. To be honest, I kinda gave Miorine the benefit of the doubt at first. Like maybe she had some kind of secret plan to resolve all this. But I guess not. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Something I also wanted to bring up was the whole Suletta forgiving Miorine in Season 2 Episode 10 thing. Maybe it's my tiny intellect that caused me to miss something again. But when did Suletta realize that Miorine pretended to dump her for her own good? And when, or even if she knew, why was she so quick to forgive her? And why wouldn't she confront Miorine about it? I mean, I know that scene in Episode 10 was sweet and all, but I couldn't help having dozens of questions rushing through my head. This should be pretty obvious by now, but no single ship is perfect or privy to scrutiny, which is why when I talk about some of my favorite ships, I tend to elaborate on the good and the bad. Usually it's with inconsistencies in the writing, and as we all know, bad writing is the quickest way to sink a ship. So take notes, you aspiring Yuri writers. Anyway, let's swivel back to the good stuff, shall we? And I can't think of anything gooder than that soon-to-be iconic ending. Bet you couldn't wait for me to talk about this, could ya? Yes, I half expected seeing a kiss between them, or at least a quick scene of their wedding, but you know what? I'll gladly take them being happily married 3 years in the future instead. 3 years? Hey, it's just like Birdie Wing's ending. I wonder if their animation studio is related. Something like this only happens once in a blue moon, and with all things considered, I wholeheartedly believe this cements Suletta and Miorine into one of the all-time Yuri greats, right up there with such legends as Nanoha and Fate and Homura and Madoka. After everything they've been through, it only makes sense for them to find happiness in each other's arms, and that's good enough for me. So yeah, as I mentioned, I don't think I can do this ship its full justice with this video alone. There are many little intricacies I would like to discuss, but for now, let's continue relishing the miracle that is Mrs. Suletta and Miorine Mercury. And please give us that OVA. We still need to see their honeymoon, goddammit! And there we have it, a quick little look back at 2022's greatest hits. As usual, let me know what you think, and let me know which 22 ships made it onto your list. We can have a nice little chat about it. Also, let me know if you care enough for me to make separate videos for each of these ships, or any Yuri ships for that matter. It'd be a good excuse for me to bring back my Yuri ships analysis videos, where I do deep dives into a Yuri couple, and go absolutely ham. Or if videos aren't your thing, you can also shoot me an art request on Pixiv. I've been on a roll with the Gundam Witch fan art recently, and that ball ain't stopping anytime soon. Anyway, that's all I got for today. See you around.